What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined always by my man in the corner, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk, or subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they are 2 days away from Week 12 against the Cleveland Browns, a game that many are saying a trap game. Dante Jackson dropped a hilarious quote about trap games, saying, yeah, I spent most of my career in Carolina. I don't know what that is. I don't know what a trap game is. That comes with losing, my friend. That's an unfortunate part, but maybe a blessing at the same time to being on a team that, well, was the trap. They were the trap team. Meanwhile, he's not the only one talking. Myles Garrett has plenty to say about TJ Watt and his thoughts on Defensive Player of the Year last season. Arthur Smith drops a little bit of a tidbit that makes you think maybe, just maybe, we're seeing a little bit more Justin Fields this week against the Cleveland Browns. George Pickens, my friend, how high can he go? That is the question right now. And it seems like it's going to be much higher than we anticipated coming into the season. And it's Tuesday, so we're diving into our Overreaction Tuesdays. It's rainy here in the Berg. It's supposed to stay rainy. Then it's supposed to snow on Thursday. It's here, my friend. It's here. Fall was a good time. We had a great time while it lasted. It was the friends we made along the way. The 5-0 win streak that the Pittsburgh Steelers went on throughout the leaves changing, but winter has officially arrived. How you feeling, my friend? I'm still good, even though it's cold out.
Yeah, I'm feeling good because I'm not going to be the one facing snow in 2 days. But it is Western Pennsylvania for you. I hope you enjoy that beautiful day on Sunday for Steelers football, because it's gonna be winter football from here on out, especially since you're going up to Cleveland for Thursday. I guarantee you the weather's not going to be pleasant there.
No, it'll be a good time. It's actually supposed to go from snow here, so I'll leave here. And then by the time I get to Cleveland, it's supposed to be a wintry rain, sleet, just complete nasty mess with a little bit of a wind, which wind over there is different from wind here. Yeah, it'll be a good time. It'll be a good time. But I'll tell you this, many years ago, many moons ago, it feels, you would want Nick Chubb over Najee Harris in this situation. This season, I like the Pittsburgh Steelers' odds at running back in a game that they may have to tackle the ground to win and come out alive. And, wind, rain just kind of feels like a Jameis Winston throw an interception that he shouldn't be throwing type of game. Let me ask this. We're probably not going to talk trap game much. We'll talk it tomorrow. Does Jameis Winston strike you as a trap game quarterback?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. He's a quarterback that any given day can go out there and put up 303 touchdowns. The question is just going to be, what's in the INT column? So if he can keep the INT column in check, Jameis Winston is 100% a quarterback that could go out there and surprise. Now, I know that they didn't fare well against the Saints, but he put up all of the yardage against the New Orleans Saints defense. So it's a matter of, can he make those big plays in those big moments? But he's going to put up yards if you don't take him seriously.
Okay. I won't lie to you. He doesn't give me trap game energy. And you make good points there. Like, I can't sit here and say like, oh yeah, no, he stinks. Like, clearly, I mean, he's not a starting quarterback, but he's the starting quarterback, could put up starting quarterback numbers on any given weekend. But it's just like DTR strikes me as a trap game quarterback. You go Jake Browning last year was a trap game quarterback. Jameis Winston it's almost as if he's just too developed for a trap game quarterback. But I could be totally wrong. Jacoby Brissett, Mike Glennon a couple of years ago, we were talking about how the Pittsburgh Steelers have never faced Jameis Winston. They faced the Bucs the year before when they got the first overall pick, and Mike Glennon was the guy that took down the Pittsburgh Steelers that season. That's a trap game quarterback. Maybe Jameis becomes a trap game quarterback. Who knows?
So you're saying a little bit too much respect for Jameis nationally for him to be considered a trap game quarterback.
Yeah, like it's almost as if he's just like too loud. To be a trap game quarterback, you got to be quiet. Nobody could see it coming. You got to be like all week long. People will talk about Jameis. Nobody Nobody would talk about DTR. Mike Glennon wasn't on anybody's radar. Nobody was like, you want to know what we're going to talk about on ESPN? Mike Glennon. That just doesn't. That does. Jacoby Brissett last season for was it the Patriots? No, it wasn't the Patriots. Who was the Patriots quarterback? Bailey Zappi.
Bailey Zappi.
Zappi is a trap game quarter. That's who is that guy exactly? Jameis is just a little bit too big, I think, to be a trap game quarterback, which works in the Steelers' favor. But I mean, a Thursday night game, we'll see what happens. Short week, it's going to be nasty. If you're heading there, and Cam Hayward asked, "Hey, you want to get?" He's not buying tickets, but he would like everybody to be there. Be prepared, my friends. Be prepared. We're going to dive into some news and notes. There's plenty to talk about here. Myles Garrett had some choice words that I don't think Pittsburgh Steelers fans will like, on top of a couple other things. I'll toss it your way to get started here. What do we got?
Yeah, we're starting with the one thing that you asked for all of last week. You said it was a rivalry week that everybody remained rather calm. It seemed almost too respectful between the Ravens and the Steelers. Well, Myles Garrett said, we're not doing that. We're not doing the respectful thing. We're going to bring back some things from January of last year because, of course, everybody remembers TJ Watt wasn't too happy to lose Defensive Player of the Year to Myles Garrett, and he had some choice words today about TJ's response, saying, quote, "I've never complained about the trophy not being at my house or vice versa. He shouldn't feel two ways about it going to me. I don't play against TJ. He doesn't play against me." And then he went on to say, "It's up for grabs this year. May the best man win." What are your thoughts on Myles Garrett starting up the trash talk in Browns week?
Let me just send a quick reminder to everybody who, I mean, like myself and probably like TJ Watt has let this go. We've moved on. This is a new season. TJ Watt's on a whole other tear. It's just a different world, different life. We've come a long way since then. TJ Watt finished with a league-leading 19 sacks last season. Myles Garrett had 14. He had 1 in the last 6 games of the season. TJ Watt had more tackles for loss, quarterback hits, fumble recoveries, interceptions, and they were tied with forced fumbles. Excuse me. TJ Watt also had a game-winning touchdown against, well, none other than the Cleveland Browns. So he probably should have won. And I think the being pissed off was warranted at the time, but that's not the conversation. The conversation is that Myles Garrett is still bringing it up. And it's just, I feel like I bag on the Browns a lot. The Browns are the Browns. I think they deserve it to be. There are a lot. Like, I respect the Baltimore Ravens a lot. And if they're going to talk trash, at least they back it up. The Browns almost never back it up. They just talk a lot. Myles Garrett was handed an award last season. We had this conversation before. There's really no need to have it again. He was handed an award last season because Myles Garrett needed to get the award. The NFL determined long ago that Myles Garrett was one day going to go down as this Hall of Fame defender before he ever played a snap in the NFL. TJ Watt really won the award. And you see how Myles Garrett won it and then fell off, and there's no more talk of Myles Garrett in the race. Why? Because Myles Garrett shouldn't have been in the race. The only reason he was in the race was because, well, he's Myles Garrett, and he needed to win one. That's the unfortunate truth. So while Myles says, and I think it's not the he shouldn't worry about it. It's the I never cared if the trophy was in my house or not. No duh, pal. It shouldn't be in your house. Shouldn't have been in your house. There was never. TJ Watt has been snubbed of this award potentially 3 times throughout his career. Myles Garrett won the award 1 time on a kind of like a feel-good situation. Like, hey, this guy, he's been working hard, man. He puts crazy social media videos out there. He deserves it. We're going to make up some stats to make sure he gets it. That's kind of what happened there. I feel like it's weird, man. Like, it's weird, to fire back and say, if he just said I try to avoid that stuff. I respect TJ. There are a billion other ways to go about it. To sit there and say, he shouldn't care about it. Yeah, dude. I mean, that's why there's a difference between you and TJ Watt. There's a pretty significant gap on who's a better football player. And TJ holds the ground there. So, I mean, everybody can say what they want about it. And it's decades old at this point, but sorry. Myles, you just look bad. It just looks I'd hate to call Myles Garrett weak because he's Myles Garrett. He could squish me like an ant, but it comes off a little soft. If you're going to ask me.
And here's the thing. Nobody is trying to take away the fact that Myles Garrett is one of the top 10 defenders in the National Football League, but he's a stat merchant with worse stats than TJ Watt. I don't think that's the guy you should be trying to target, right? I mean, you look at last year, you read down the stats. It was TJ Watt in every single category. You look at their careers. It is TJ Watt in every single category. You look at the records of the two teams. It is far and away TJ Watt with the Pittsburgh Steelers than Myles Garrett with the Cleveland Browns. So you're a stat merchant with worse stats. I think you should try to punch in your own weight class and not punch up like he's doing here with TJ Watt. But like I said, we like it. It's a short week. It gets everybody's blood flowing. And if you're 2-8, I guess you got to do something to get yourself juiced and ready for this Thursday night game.
I agree. I love some good trash talk. I'm glad we got some good trash talk, and those are the teams that talk the trash. It's the 2-8 teams that usually do the bad talking. The Ravens aren't going to walk around talking trash. The Kansas City Chiefs aren't going to walk around talking trash. It's the Raiders who talk the trash about the Chiefs. It's the Browns that talk the trash about the Steelers.
It's the Bears that talk the trash about the Packers.
Exactly. It's the bad teams that talk the trash because good teams know not to talk the trash because they just play football and they win. That's the difference. So shout out the Browns, man. And I'm sure TJ is going to hear it. I'm sure JJ's already sent it to his phone and said, "Hey, pal, just in case you missed this one." So he'll be fired up. And I mean, look, Jason Kelce used to look at Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham and say, "Hey, dude, will you shut up, please? Because that guy's he's got to go against me, not you, pal." Jameis should be doing the same thing and saying, "Dude, I don't know if you realize, but all of our offensive tackles are hurt. Stop talking. We need everything we can against TJ Watt." So shout out Myles Garrett, man. Shout out Myles Garrett.
Man, if there was ever a week to break out a TJ Watt 2-point conversion, this would be the week. This would be the week, but we all know that's never going to happen.
Can he? What are the odds he scores a touchdown in 2 seasons in a row against the Browns? Doesn't have to be a game winner, but just a touchdown.
I was thinking more on the offensive side of things, but if he scores a touchdown at all, still very slim because the Steelers have not, other than Beanie Bishop once, they haven't come close to scoring that defensive touchdown yet. So I would put it at a 20% chance just because it's TJ versus the Browns, and you always got to give him chances.
I agree. I think it would definitely send some shockwaves. Would probably secure. It would re-spark this conversation for sure, and it would probably send shockwaves throughout the entire snowy, nasty city of Cleveland. So shout out Myles Garrett.
Let's go over to the Steelers locker room and the Steelers side of these things. Obviously, we saw this week the beginning of the Justin Fields packages, the long-awaited Justin Fields packages. And Arthur Smith, 2 days later, he's still talking about it, saying, quote, "Yeah, obviously, there's a fine line to do it. I don't view Justin as, in this role, a gadget guy. Justin, to me, is we've got 2 starting quarterbacks. Could this be a perfect week to utilize Justin Fields even more than we saw on Sunday against the Ravens?"
Yeah, I think this is the time too, and I expect it to be the time too. It's going to be snowy, nasty, and rainy, which only adds to your running game. And we talked about that yesterday, about how you want a guy like Justin to add to your running game because he just adds the speed element that you're missing in your running backs. On top of that, like, this is a short week. This is when you do it. This is the perfect time to do it. You did it against Baltimore. Cleveland's got 3 plays worth of it to study in 3 days, so they have no chance to prepare for it. You're going to practice one time. It's going to be a half-hearted practice where, they've already concluded, if I had to guess, and then you're going to just go to film room. So you don't get those opportunities, those looks in practice to see what a mobile quarterback can do and test that with a guy like DTR, Jameis, or whoever to try to mimic a Justin Fields. This is when you strike. If you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you use it, and you use it all the time, and you just say, "Justin, bro, you got an opportunity to go out there and really make a name right now and really become a dangerous part of this football game." And I think that he takes advantage of it. I also expect it to be used in the red zone. That's the one spot they were missing, was the red zone. And you could, again, take advantage of that because it's a short week, because you don't have the preparation aspect of it. The Cleveland Browns are shorthanded when it comes to just the game planning side of things because of how the Pittsburgh Steelers deployed it. I think it worked out perfectly. They obviously wanted to do it against the Commanders, but then Justin Fields suffered the hamstring injury, so they kept that, a little bit held back in that game. Baltimore worked out beautifully. That's what you wanted. And I think now you give Cleveland no opportunity to react. You use it, and then you quiet it down. After this game, you kind of put it away for a little bit, and you make the teams start to guess. And then you bring it back against Philly or Kansas City or the next time you play the Baltimore Ravens, something like that. But for right now, this week, in the words of Randy Fichtner, the skillet is hot. So go get it. That's my expectation. This is the perfect week to use more Justin Fields.
Yeah, in my opinion, whenever you sent this over, I said, you know what? No, because it's the Browns. They're 2-8. Why do you want to put more of it on film against the Browns? And then I looked at where the Steelers stood and where the Steelers could stand over the next 3 weeks. They play the Browns, the Bengals, and the Browns again. They could really put a stranglehold on the division title in these next 3 weeks, because if you win out those 3 games, you're 11-2. You've officially eliminated the Browns and the Bengals from contention. You're 4-0 in your division, and the Ravens' next 3 weeks are the Chargers, the Eagles, and the Giants. You could essentially wrap up the AFC North if you take care of business and things go the right way in the Ravens' results. So yeah, why not put it out there? Why not put it out there on film? Why not put it out there and do everything you can to pick up these divisional wins? Because we've talked about that 3 games in 10-day stretch. Wouldn't it be nice if you had already wrapped up the AFC North and you're just playing for seeding at that point? So why not go out there, try to put it all out there on the line, and utilize Justin Fields to get these important and pivotal division wins. So yeah, I'm all for it after looking at what they could do over the next 3 weeks in division.
Yeah, and look, you're not going to use Justin Fields in every game, so you might as well use him in advantageous situations. And if we're going to talk trap game, if we're going to talk you could take a larger lead in the AFC North, like this is the time. You know what I mean? Use it now, put it away against Kansas City, and then just, instead of make Kansas City prepare, or not Kansas City, Cincinnati prepare for it, and then don't use it, and then get everybody guessing. Is it coming? Is it not coming? What's going on here? Then you start getting dangerous with it. That's my thoughts.
Let's finish off our news and notes segment with a little talk about George Pickens, because he went from, and we talked about it yesterday a little bit, 9th in the NHL in receiving yards, shot up as high as 3rd this week, but he did fall down to 4th with CeeDee Lamb's performance last night on Monday Night Football. But George Pickens currently with 728 receiving yards sits 4th in the National Football League. Is there a chance that he finishes this year top 3 in the NFL?
I think there is. He was 3rd until CeeDee Lamb went off. At some point, the Cowboys got to see what they got in Trey Lance, or at least do enough with Trey Lance so that you could use him as trade bait during the offseason, something. But you have to put Trey Lance out there. You would imagine that's just going to tank CeeDee Lamb because Trey Lance is not a very good quarterback. And now you're looking at it going, well, George is just getting started, my friend. Just getting started. I think his numbers are 111, 74, something like that, and then 91 and 89 in his time with Russell Wilson. Feels like this is just the beginning of George Pickens and what this season holds for him. He's not going to catch Jamar Chase. I mean, Jamar Chase is unbelievable right now. Him and Joe Burrow are the best combination to ever be 4-7 in NFL history. I mean, that's the best quarterback, and that's the best wide receiver that has ever sat at 4-7. You'd have to go back and see how bad some of those Randy Moss teams were when he was in Oakland. But even then, wasn't playing like it. You're not going to catch Jamar Chase. You might catch Justin Jefferson, but I doubt it. You're still about 150 yards away from him, maybe almost 200 yards away from him. You're probably going to catch CeeDee Lamb. I think 3rd is very easy for George Pickens to finish, which is nuts to say that in his 3rd year, he's 3rd in the NFL in receiving yards. What's that mark? Like, what do you hit to be 3rd? You're thinking like 1,300 yards, something like that?
I would think if he gets around there, yes. But I think the other thing for the Steelers is you look at these other teams, some of them are going to be in contention. Some of them are going to be out of contention and not caring about anything. The Steelers, even if they wrap up the AFC North, like I talked about a couple seconds ago, they're still going to be fighting for that number 1 seed in the AFC right there.
Oh, yeah.
They're right there around the Bills. They're right there around the Chiefs. They're right there around the Texans, who can fly up out of nowhere. So they're going to be jockeying for position no matter what. And I don't think they're blowing anybody out for the remainder of their schedule. So they're going to be fighting in these games, which means George Pickens is going to be needed in all of these games. So I think that 1,300 is probably the number you're looking at. And I think that that is definitely on the table for GP, because I think that they are going to rely heavily on him down the stretch here to get the best position possible for the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. You got to look at George and say he's just getting started with Russ. He's had one 100-yard game in that time with Russ. There are definitely more coming. I don't know when they'll come, but there are definitely more coming. And he hasn't even had that like giant, crazy, like, oh my God, what is happening? George Pickens game that he will have. He will have one of those games. And if that's 200 yards, you've just taken a significant step towards being 3, maybe 2. I think there's a shot he could compete for 2. It's going to take a lot, but I think there's a shot he could compete for 2. I mean, it's not, if he finishes top 3, do you put him in the top 5 of just wide receivers? Like, is that it? Is that the placeholder? You got to, Justin Jefferson is up there. I mean, he's number 1, I would imagine. Tyreek Hill, Amon St. Brown, Jamar Chase. I mean, is there a shot for George to be 5 by the end of the season and really just claim that 5th spot over guys like maybe CeeDee Lamb?
Yeah, 100%, because the way he's performing now, and it's making it hard for other teams to cover him, because everybody knows he's the guy. He's doing this with no number 2. And yeah, we want Mike Williams to be that number 2, but even if Mike Williams is the number 2, then GP is doing it with Mike Williams as his freaking number 2. So I think you put him right up there. I think the 2 names that you cannot put anybody over is Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. But then I think there is an argument to be had with everybody else. I would put him up there with CeeDee Lamb. I would put him up there with Tyreek Hill. I would put him up there with, any other those other names that you could mention in the top 5. I think if he's able to do it this year, then you look at him and say, listen, he's more than just the go route guy that everybody thought he was when he came in his rookie year. He's more than just the circus catch guy that everybody thought he was in his rookie year. He's taking a team and putting it on his back, because that's what he's been for the passing game for the Steelers, and a Steelers team that is walking right up to playoff contention, walking right up to potentially being a number 1 seed in the AFC.
I agree. We'll see what happens. Thursday could you imagine if he goes out for 200 yards and just soars to number 2 in the beginning of week 12? That would be nuts. But shout out GP. Well earned, I would say. Well earned, well deserved to be top 4. I think it's almost guaranteed he finishes top 3.
I was going to say, remember what he did last time he played in Cleveland on a Thursday night. So yeah, could be a repeat of that, and hopefully a little bit more than just that one circus catch that he had that first year. I agree.
All right, we're diving into Overreaction Tuesday, but first we got a quick word from our boys over at Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. See all of your subscriptions in one place and know exactly where your money is going. And for any that you don't want anymore, Rocket Money can help you cancel them with just a few taps. Rocket Money's dashboard gives you a clear view of your expenses across all accounts, easily creates a personalized budget with custom categories to help keep your spending on track, and sees your monthly spending trends in each category to know exactly where your money is going. Get alerts if your bills increase in price, there's unusual spending activity, or if you're close to going over your budget. And the new goals feature automatically saves money for you without you even having to think about it. Whether your goal is to pay off your credit card debt, put away money for a house, or just build your savings, Rocket Money makes it easy. Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you, sometimes up to 20%. They automatically scan your bills to find opportunities to save. Then you can ask them to negotiate for you. They'll deal with customer service. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions. They could save members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/allsteelers. That's rocketmoney.com/allsteelers. rocketmoney.com/allsteelers. Shout out to our boys over at Rocket Money. All right, let's dive into it. Overreaction Tuesday. We got updates on these videos. I keep sending them to you. We're working through them. We won't lie to you. Shout out to my boy who's making. He knows who it is. I'm not gonna give him. He's got a lot on his plate. I don't think he wants the credit, whether he does it or not. He definitely imitated Rich Eisen, and I called him out for it. And then he said, yeah, you're right. That is a little bit the same. So we're working on it. We're getting through it. We do have some good ones. I'm excited for them. We're tossing a week 12. Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns, short week, Thursday night football, Myles Garrett talking shit, very exciting times. It's Overreaction Tuesday. What do we got?
We got plenty of great overreactions. And honestly, I want to start out of the gate with the hottest one that I had before we get to my other two and the listeners who brought the heat on this Overreaction Tuesday. But my first one is taking into account all three phases of the game: offense, defense, and Danny Smith's special teams. The Steelers are the most complete team in the AFC, no doubt in my mind.
Wow. I'm glad that you win here. It got a little ooh out of me, that's always good. That's always a red hot
reaction. What I'm looking for every Monday and Tuesday. I'm like, what will make Noah go, ooh? That's what I'm looking for every time.
You get it out of me. You got it out of me. The craziest part about this is this morning, I was listening to First Take, and I don't listen to First Take, but it was just on, and I don't know how my house is set up. Bathroom is the master bathroom is within the bedroom or whatever. So I had it on the television, listening to it while I was in the shower, and Shannon Sharp's going, Pittsburgh Steelers are the best team in the AFC. And Stephen A is like, no chance, pal. And I'm like, dude, there is an argument to be made that if you could win 2 games, not just 1, 2 games by your kicker and your defense, that you are a powerful football team, that you are a team that could shock people, that on your offense's worst days, which will happen, there will be plenty of times, plenty of weeks, plenty of games where Russell Wilson or Najee Harris or if you're on a different team, Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson don't show up. The Baltimore Ravens in week 11 against the Pittsburgh Steelers are a prime example of what could happen if you need to rely on your special teams unit and your defense to win a football game. And most teams are not going to go win it. The Pittsburgh Steelers do, and they've done it twice. So you got to think that they could do it again if they need to. I don't think this is an overreaction. I think the Kansas City Chiefs have clear weak spots, and they just lost Harrison Buckner. The Buffalo Bills are the second most scary team in the NFL. But if Josh Allen ain't clicking, they don't got much going on there. And there is nobody else, because it should have been the Baltimore Ravens, but their defense is questionable at times. And Justin Tucker ain't it, pal. Washed on my boy Justin Tucker. I'm saying that's not an overreaction. The Pittsburgh Steelers are, I think, without question right now, the most complete football team in the AFC. And I'd have to really give a deep look at the Detroit Lions special teams unit, but it could be in the entire NFL.
All righty. I like it. I like the agreement there. Now let's see if you agree with this one. Patrick Queen is here. He's had 2 phenomenal performances out of the bye, and he will play at an all-pro level the rest of the way this season.
What are we judging an all-pro level at? What's an all-pro level?
If he keeps running the way he's running now, forcing turnovers like he did on Sunday, always leading the team in tackles, flying to the ball, everybody's circulating that Derek Bell clip where he went stride for stride with the Ravens defense, the Ravens Zay Flowers.
Yeah.
Down the seam. So that to me is an all-pro level. Sunday was an all-pro level. I'm saying he does it the rest of the year. I think he is here, and I think he's going to be the guy everybody was excited to get signed to the Steelers this summer.
I look at it. I think you're 2 for 2 right here. I don't think that's an overreaction at all. It's hard. It was an overreaction to say Patrick Queen was a bad move. That's what the overreaction was, because you had to give him time. He was adjusting to a new defense. It was the first time in his NFL career that he was anywhere but Baltimore, playing for Mike McDonald. It's hard to say that he's not going to play at this level, at this great high level, for the rest of the season. Patrick Queen is a very talented 25-year-old inside linebacker. He's got a ton of career left. He's coming off an all-pro season. Everybody around him is clicking. I think that's the biggest part here too, is people would say Patrick Queen's not playing well. Yeah, neither is anybody else, pal. Like, well, that was the issue, was we went 3 weeks where nobody was really playing great football on defense. If everybody plays that well, Patrick Queen just feeds off of them. I don't think that's an overreaction at all. I think Patrick Queen could be that guy for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's why they signed him to be that guy. This is not, I was thinking about this today too. It's weird that you're bringing these up. I was thinking that Michael Walker popped into my head at some point today for some reason. And I just started thinking, like, that's where the Steelers were. And now people want to say, like, oh, well, Patrick Queen isn't that. No, Patrick Queen's head and shoulder. Like, this is not there weren't these performances with these other guys. There weren't these performances with Myles Jack or Devin Bush or Robert Splint. They're here with these guys. So with Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson and Landon Roberts. So I mean, no, I'm going to say that's not an overreaction either. I think you're 2 for 2 here.
All right, this one might get you, because every time I bring up a Najee Harris one, you say I go a little bit too far. It's all right. That's all right. But we'll see if you do it this time. Najee Harris is about to go on a, in all caps, generational run for the Steelers in the playoffs.
Generational run. What was the last? I mean, he is the next generation, besides the last generation to have a generational run in the playoffs at running back. I mean, was Willie Parker. That was it for the Steelers. Yeah. Are we talking just Steelers? Or are we talking everybody?
We'll stay just Steelers. We'll temper it a little bit. But I was thinking, I was like, well, probably Todd Gurley, but I was like, oh wait, no, Steelers. Sorry. Yeah, Willie
Steelers. You get Todd Gurley. You get, I mean, there have been I think a few, to be honest with you. I mean, you could add Isaiah Pacheco last year into that. He was a tear in the playoffs. Yeah. I mean, it could happen. The Steelers got to win some playoff games. That's where it becomes a question mark. I'm not going to say an overreaction, but a question mark, because you have to win playoff games to be able to go on a generational run. You can't just have one great game and then you lose and then it's over. So you'd have to win some football games. That could come down to Najee Harris. That Najee could be the reason that the Pittsburgh Steelers do win some playoff games. That's definitely something that could go down, or definitely a reason that would give him more juice to this generational run. I mean, there's a possibility, but it depends on who you're playing. You know, you're going to have to probably play Baltimore. You might have to play the Chargers, which they have a pretty good defense right now. And Jim Harbaugh in the playoffs intimidates me a little bit. You might have to play the Denver Broncos that have a pretty sound defense. Probably Kansas City. Buffalo also has a good defense. The road will be tough. But I'll tell you this. Why it's not an overreaction is if the Steelers are contenders, which I believe they are contenders, real life, serious, like, don't sleep on them now, pal. Don't you're either jumping on the bandwagon before it's too late. Otherwise, you're going to look like a fraud in a couple of weeks. Contenders, Najee's going to have to beat Najee, and Najee's going to have to go on a run, and he's going to have to be dangerous in the playoffs. So, I mean, you got me at first. Generational run, it intimidated me a little bit, but I'm going to say this one's also not an overreaction and could definitely happen.
All right. Shout out to Unlimited Moonballs, who says Marshawn Lynch had a generational run.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was on my list. He was on my list as well. He was the name that popped into my head when I realized you were talking NFL. Was, I don't know, dude. I don't know if you could beat the Marshawn. Like, his one game alone that's a generational run. If Najee does that, it's good enough. That's a generational run in my head.
Let's jump over to the listener submissions from earlier today. Joe Schmo says the Steelers are on the verge of another dynasty. JPJ, Frazier, McCormick, Benton, Muth, and Herbig will all be Steelers for their entire career.
Dynasty. Okay, so I have had this conversation with Troy Polamalu before. Okay, and he has told me, and I know he's said it on the pivot before too. So I've heard it on the pivot. I heard it on the pivot before I've talked to him about this. So I won't take the credit. But he has said that he does not consider his time with the Steelers a dynasty. He does not look at it and say he believes that you have to win 3. Sorry, I just got a very strange text from somebody who usually they're just making fun of a picture. Okay. It was a source just to toss everything out there, and I was like, all right, hold up, do we got news? No, they're just making fun of a picture of mine. All right, we're back in it. Troy Polamalu has told me that he does not consider his time with the Steelers a dynasty because he thinks you have to win 3 to be considered a dynasty. Do we go off of that? Do you go off of I've always said if Troy Polamalu says it, it is gospel. I don't know if everybody else agrees with me on this, because if we do, man, 3 is tough, pal. 3 is with no quarterback situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're very lost to quarterback after the season. Maybe you got Russ, but is Russ going to win you 3 more Super Bowls? Is Russ going to win you 1 Super Bowl? I don't know. Where do you go from here? You have that massive question. Is Arthur Smith going to stick around long enough? That's another huge question, because you need all your pieces together, which the Steelers might luck out there. That Arthur Smith might not be looking for a head coaching job. He might love what he's doing, and that's totally fine, and he's here to stay forever. And if that's the case, that works in your favor. And TJ and Cam and those guys, they're getting old. TJ's 30 years old, man. Does he have 3 Super Bowls in him? I'll say this. The building blocks for the next generation of the Pittsburgh Steelers are in place. Can they win a Super Bowl? Certainly. Can they be an AFC North dynasty again, where they just dominate the AFC North and they are the favorite, and back to Ben Roethlisberger and the Killer Bees and the James Harrisons and the Troy Polamalu's of they are going to win the AFC North? There are no questions. The Ravens will have to have one extraordinary year to beat them. That's a possibility. Winning 3 Super Bowls, if that's what we're going to listen to, I don't know about that one. That's an overreaction in my head.
Yeah, the one thing I will say before we go to the next overreaction is Troy, and I hate to call this guy out because he's gotten it so much from the Steelers fan base. You are a one Rashard Mendenhall fumble away from getting 3.
Nah, you can say whatever you want about Rashad Mendenhall. That guy stinks.
Well, okay. Either way, you were one fumble away from being 3-time Super Bowl champion. Give yourself a little bit of credit. Give yourself a little bit of leeway there, even though I know he never will. He never will.
Never, dude. Never. Of all people. So if we're going gospel, I'm going to say that's an overreaction. But I agree with you. I think that there are lesser dynasties that we could build, that the Pittsburgh Steelers could build off these guys. I think the building blocks of a dynasty, that's not an overreaction.
All righty. Let's go over to AJ, who says Chris Boswell will not only win team MVP, he will be an all-pro. He will win Super Bowl MVP, and he will go into the hall when it's his time.
Wow, dude. You had me right up until Super Bowl MVP. The rest of those are easy A's, easy answers. No questions asked. He is an all-pro this season. He is the best kicker in football. 0 questions asked. He's about to score more points in 2024 than anybody's ever scored in NFL history. That is an all-pro season. He's certainly going to Canton, Ohio. I mean, he's been in Canton, Ohio, but he's going to Canton, Ohio. I mean, if they keep Chris Boswell out of Canton, Ohio, there will be riots, and deserved riots over not putting that guy in the Hall of Fame. Team MVP is certainly there as well. I mean, if you asked the group today, I would imagine Chris Boswell wins team MVP. Super Bowl MVP. You're beating the Detroit Lions, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Green Bay Packers,
Nope, that's the list.
Yeah, that's the list. Like the Arizona Cardinals are going to show up there. I mean, that would be awesome. Me and Donnie Drew would be doing podcasts all week, pal. But you're going to beat them by 18 points?
18-16 Super Bowl.
I don't think that can happen. I don't think it can happen. I've seen crazier things. I've never seen a kicker win a Super Bowl MVP. And that's the end of it. I mean, I will say, if anybody was going to get the fan votes during this game, during a Super Bowl to win MVP, it's going to be Chris Boswell. It's definitely going to be Chris Boswell. But that's an overreaction, my friend. It's a great one. You got me fired up, and I appreciate it, but that's an overreaction.
You mentioned a little tidbit there, a little stat there that Chris Boswell is chasing. Carl Spackler actually had that in the comment section saying, overreaction. Does Chris Boswell break LaDainian Tomlinson's all-time points record of 189 points in a season? He is currently on pace for 181.
Yeah, I think he does. I think he does. I mean, that's three more field goals. I think he does. I don't know if he's got 2 more 18-point, games in him. That might be a little bit too much, but I don't know. I'm not going to say no. I think it's a real possibility that he has maybe a 15-point game in him, maybe a 12-point game in him. I think I would say this is not an overreaction, and it is nuts to say it's not an overreaction, but it is not an overreaction, because if you did it one time, if this was it, if Atlanta never happened, this is a massive overreaction. We're hyping Boz up way too much. It's twice, man. This has happened 2 times. Is, in the words of Mike Tomlin, 2 times. That is a trend. That is a pattern. The pattern is Chris Boswell comes through. So I'm going to say that is not, as crazy as that sounds, that is not an overreaction.
Let's go to Steven's overreaction, which is, Noah, I claimed after the win over the Jets that the AFC would travel through Pittsburgh this postseason. And you claimed it a big overreaction. I was wondering, is that still an overreaction?
What week I do remember this? What week did he say he put this in, or he just said earlier? After the Jets game. That's not even that long ago. At the time, though, you just beat the Jets. Oh my gosh. There's a real possibility. There's a real possibility. Like, in the terms of an overreaction, this is not an overreaction. It can't be an overreaction. They are 1 game behind the Kansas City Chiefs, and they have an opportunity to claim that game against the Kansas City Chiefs. And then they just need the Bills to lose one. And I mean, that can happen. They got to go undefeated the rest of the year. But who's going to say that's not going to happen? I'm not going to sit here and say that's not going to happen. I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but I'm not going to say you're crazy for thinking it is. Man, dude, as nuts as this sounds, because this is nuts. You know what I mean? Where we've come, the tables that have turned here, we have somehow gone to, like, slow your roll, keep it calm. Let's not jump, let's not get carried away too quickly, to Chris Boswell could win Super Bowl MVP, break LaDainian Tomlinson's all-time scoring record,
and make the Hall of Fame.
Make the Hall of Fame, and the Pittsburgh Steelers could get the 1 seed in the AFC. And I can't say any of them are overreactions where we stand right now. Look at the Pittsburgh Steelers have beaten 5 playoff teams, and I think people are sleeping on them. And because of that, I'm going to say this, that is not an overreaction. And you saw it coming, Steven, so shout out.
We do have one here from Carl Spackler that I really enjoyed. He said, Coach T is putting up a top 10 all-time NFL coaching season so far. And this is coming from somebody who wanted him gone this offseason.
Top 10 is so tough. I think it's so subjective. So that would be that's very difficult, because I think what I watched with the Duck Hodges, Mason Rudolph season, what I watched last year is more impressive than this season, because the Steelers they have a team right now. They have coaches right now. Like, you were working with Randy Fichtner and Duck Hodges, and you win 8-8. You were working with Kenny Pickett, who, I mean, is he better than Duck Hodges? Nobody knows. Nobody really has any idea. Mitch Trubisky and Matt Canada, who, I mean, come on. We've seen this. We know how bad it was. That's impressive times, my friend. That's impressive time. Mike Tomlin might have like 3 or 4 of these under his belt before this season alone, which is nuts. And then, like, you got to go the Bill Belichick undefeated season. That's no questions asked. You got to go the Bill Belichick making the change to Tom Brady. That's, Russell Wilson was a great move. It was Tom Brady, my friend. It was Tom Brady. I would say that's an overreaction. but that would be fun. That would be a really, really fun podcast to just sit down and see where Mike Tomlin's season ranks amongst seasons. That would be a good time.
Yeah, Don Shula definitely goes.
Don Shula, you know what I mean? Like, how do you could probably pick 2 of the Jimmy Johnson seasons, I'm a little hungry. Jimmy Johnson seasons and put those on there. Like Bill Cowher taking Cordell Stewart to the AFC North or to the AFC Championship game. That's the Pittsburgh Steelers winning as a 6 seed, winning a Super Bowl, being the first team to ever win it as a 6 seed. Like, it would be so much fun. It would be so much fun. I'm going to say this is an overreaction. I appreciate you, Carl, for getting my brain kind of racking and going there. That was cool. But it would be fun to sit down and kind of maybe just name the top 10, see where Mike Tomlin fits here.
File that away. We'll do that in the offseason.
Yeah, it's a good one. That's definitely a good one.
Let's go to the ones that are in this live chat right now, starting with Chad, who says, overreaction, the Ravens and the Browns are the only 2 teams Pittsburgh cannot score against.
That might be true. That is not an overreaction. The Baltimore, if you go back and look at their games, I did it yesterday, and it's absurd. It's like 2 of them have hit 20 points in like the last 6 years or something. It's crazy. And then Cleveland, man, that's why this one's not going to be easy on Thursday. Cleveland's always Cleveland. It's not Cincinnati. The Steelers beat Cincinnati. They have a much easier time against Cincinnati than Cleveland. It's Cincinnati's the middle child that nobody really remembers. That's who Cincinnati is. The Cleveland Browns, the Cleveland Browns are like the jerk older brother that you just kind of, you're going to beat up a little bit. So I would agree. This is not an overreaction. Those are the only 2 teams that Pittsburgh can't score against. And it holds up every single time, and it would not surprise me if it holds up this week as well.
Chad has the second one here saying, overreaction, TJ Watt will have 5 sacks this week against the Cleveland Browns.
5 sacks. I'll tell you why this is not an overreaction.
Not an overreaction.
It's not an overreaction. If 5 sacks has happened already this season, Aiden Hutchinson proved, I hope he's doing well, proved that could happen. Okay, so it's not an overreaction to think that 5 sacks is impossible. The Cleveland Browns just lost DeJuan Jones. Jedrick Wills is a giant question mark to what's going on. You want to know who their star, and I get it, TJ plays on the right side, but you could switch it up. You could definitely do a little switching here and just, toss TJ to the other side and see what happens. But their right tackle right now is Jack Conklin. Okay, great, awesome. That's a bona fide starter right there. You want to put TJ on the other side. Chances are he's going against Jermaine Afidi, who hasn't started a game at right tackle or left tackle, ever in his life. Ever in his life. He's a right guard who's about to start at right tackle for left tackle, for the Cleveland Browns. If I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm saying, hey, TJ, I get it. You're not as good on that side. You're just good enough. Go ahead, have a good time, have a field day. I'm not going to say that's impossible. I'm just not going to say it. And Myles Garrett's talking smack. Just the overreact. If we're talking over, I'm not going to guarantee it. This is not a bold prediction. This is an overreaction, and I'm saying, Chad, that is not an overreaction this week.
We're going to finish it off with our guy, Unlimited Moonballs, that says, overreaction. The Justin Fields package is what convinces Justin Fields to stay in Pittsburgh next year.
Yeah. I think Justin's a great human. I enjoy talking to him. I enjoy his presence in the locker room. I enjoy his presence on the football field. I think everybody else agrees with me. I am going to enjoy it next year when he signs with the team with an opportunity to be a starting quarterback. And that is what's going to happen. That's an overreaction. I would love for Justin Fields to stay. I think everybody in Pittsburgh would love for Justin Fields to stay. I think having him and Russ would be incredible. But Justin Fields isn't going to spend his career sitting on the bench in Pittsburgh. He's going to go somewhere else and become a long-term starting quarterback, or at least try to. So I'm going to say that's an overreaction. Justin Fields, in my opinion, is headed to Vegas, to Cleveland maybe, which would stink.
No,
Cleveland's
don't do that.
That's a possibility, though. It's a real possibility. There will be names, and Justin will go somewhere else.
That's a wrap for Overreaction Tuesday, then.
Awesome. That was awesome, guys. Appreciate you so much. We're diving into all of your questions next, so make sure that you toss them in the chat. But first, we got a quick word from our boys over at The Perfect Gene. 400,000. That's how many men have rescued their nuts from stiff, unforgiving jeans, all thanks to The Perfect Gene. These jeans have enough stretch to accommodate Thanksgiving dinner and are comfy enough to wear all day watching Sunday football. Plus, even though they feel like sweatpants, they look good enough to be your go-to pants for date night. The Perfect Gene has the perfect size for everybody, and we mean everybody. They've got 6 different fits, waists running from 26 to 50 and lengths from 26 to 38, which means there are over 5,000 possible combinations of pants for you to choose from. So if you're a short king or actually 6'5", if you love a loose fit or are still in your skinny jean era, or if you're bulking up or cutting down, the Perfect Gene is the perfect option for you. For a limited time, our listeners get 15% off their first order plus free shipping at theperfectgene.nyc, or Google The Perfect Gene and use our code ALLSteelers15 for 15% off. It's finally time to stop crushing your balls in uncomfortable jeans by going to theperfectgene.nyc. Our listeners get 15% off your first order plus free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges when you use code ALLSteelers15 at checkout. That's 15% off for new customers at theperfectgene.nyc with promo code ALLSteelers15. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Fuck your khakis and get the Perfect Gene. Shout out our boys over at The Perfect Gene. And I apologize once again for everybody who's about to get off of work and just had the F word screamed in their thing. But, you know, whatever you got to do, you got to do. And I'll tell you right now, The Perfect Gene, they're worth it. I'm actually was rocking them last night for some date night. So shout out. And by date night, I meant sushi down the street. But that's close enough. That's close enough. All right, we're diving into all of your questions. So toss them in the chat. If you got them, we'll get to as many as we can before we head out of here. Nick, what do we got?
Let's start with Yinzer Joe, who says, do you guys think Arthur Smith is trying to open up the middle of the field more for Washington instead of Pat Freiermuth?
No, I don't. I at least not intentionally. I look at it like Russ does not work well over the middle of the field. Never has. That's always been his downfall. They want Pat to be in precarious situations where he can thrive, and Arthur Smith knows that that's going to be on the outside, not the inside. Do I agree with it? No. Do I think that that's what the mindset is behind it? Yes. And I just think that Darnell is more open. And we made a joke about it yesterday about, like, you know, maybe Russ can see Darnell's 6'7", 6'8" head and say, oh, there it is. You know, I'm going to throw to that guy, where he can't see that in Pat. So I would say no. I think the Steelers have to utilize Pat in the middle of the field more. That's the only way he's going to succeed, but that is just not what Russell Wilson's game is, and they're trying to put everybody in advantageous situations. So it's not intentional, but it is certainly a thing, and I agree with you that it seems that way. I don't think that's really the case. If I had to adjust anything, it would be to adjust putting Pat in the middle of the field and using him in the seam more.
Dalton wants to know who is a dark horse for game MVP this Thursday. I have a feeling Warren will have 2 all-purpose touchdowns in this game.
That's a good bold prediction. That is a good bold prediction in this one. Dark horse MVP in this one. Oh, I mean, Minka is an easy one. Dante Jackson is another one, because if anybody is going to throw a ball up, and we got one here, Jameis is a gunslinger. What percentage do you give of Minka INT? If anybody's going to throw it up and say, yeah, screw it, I know, whatever, man, it's going to be Jameis Winston. It's going to be Jameis Winston. I mean, everybody remembers the year that he led the league in both touchdowns and interceptions. And that is perfectly defying Jameis Winston. So I think that Dante Jackson and Minka Fitzpatrick are the dark horse potential MVPs in this one. because both of them could have massive interceptions or numerous interceptions against the Browns.
Let's go down to Cody Silva. Appreciate you as always. Cody says Patrick Queen, Ryan Clark, Rashad Bateman. Did you see it on Sunday?
No, I don't know if I did see that actually.
Was
you
it
see
Rashad Bateman? It wasn't Rashad Bateman. I think it was Justice Hill on a Texas route that he absolutely blew up at the line of scrimmage.
Did he really? I missed that. I missed that. Wow. I have to I'll go back and watch it. I did not watch the film from Baltimore. I'm usually pretty good at sitting down and watching the film, but this week is such a turnaround that
funny enough, neither did Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, I know. When he said it, I said it to Jillian, my wife, yesterday. I was like, I'm not watching film this week because Mike Tomlin told me he's not watching film this week. And I said, well, there it is. There's my excuse not to go watch film. So we're doing a quick turnaround, but I'm going to go look at that one. That's shout out Patrick Queen, man. I think
Baldy put it on his Twitter, but Baldy also tweets 80,000 times a day. So
he does, but I'll look through him. I'll just sit there and scroll, listen to him talk. You could pick up on what's going to go on pretty quickly in those Baldy tweets.
Oh yeah, 100%. Let's go over to Christopher, who, speaking of Patrick Queen, has this to say. Would you say that we have the most complete inside linebacker room in the NFL? PQ is the every down, E-Rob is the downhill thumper, and Peyton Wilson is the sideline to sideline player.
Yep, I think I'd have to go look at every single inside linebacker room, and it's hard to say that, when Drew Greenlaw is healthy, or Dre Greenlaw is healthy, that San Francisco doesn't have it, but he's not healthy. So I would say there's a really good possibility that the Steelers have the best and most complete inside linebacker room, especially when Peyton Wilson is playing well. He's the guy. He's a rookie. You're going to have your hits and your misses. When he's hitting, Patrick Queen's hitting, Elandon Roberts is always hitting. I think there's real potential that this answer is yes, that they do have the most complete linebacker room in the NFL. I mean, and then you add your outside linebackers. I get it that they're edge rushers, not linebackers these days, but TJ Watt, Preston Smith, Nick Herbig, Alex Highsmith. I mean, Jeremiah Moon, who's a special teams ace, Mark Robinson, who's a special teams ace, Tyler Matakevich, who's a special teams ace. I think there's a real possibility that the answer to this is yes.
Let's go over to Logan, who says, could 12-5 this year get a first round bye?
I don't think so. I would say 14-3 is probably going to get you that number. No, there is no first. It's only the first team. It's only the one seed. So 14-3 might be pushing it even. It might be a 2-loss season. Like the Steelers might not be able to lose again if they're going to look to claim the AFC. I would say 3 max is the lowest they can go. Any team could go. Because at that point, you're going to hope that Kansas City loses 4 more. I just don't think that's going to happen, especially because on Monday, we're going to be talking about how the Kansas City Chiefs whooped I think they're playing like the Carolina Panthers or something. Mm-hmm. And people are going to be like, well, they're back. Here it is. It's over. The downfall was fun. Kansas City Chiefs are winning the Super Bowl. So, I think it's 3 losses max.
Let's go over to Casey, who says, any update on Roman Wilson? Feel we need a short to intermediate route runner to help Russ get the ball out quicker and avoid some of these sacks.
No word on Roman right now. I do think you need an intermediate route runner. I would like to see Calvin Austin kind of start being used in that role, but I don't have an answer to why they don't. Maybe me, you, and everybody else sees it and nobody else does. But no update on Roman yet. He's in the building. Obviously, he's still going to meetings. He's still hanging out with the team and rehabbing, but I don't expect him to play the rest of the season. I could be wrong there, but this is just a hunch that I think his season is over and that the Steelers are going to go into next year and just say, look, he couldn't get on the moving train. Injuries derailed it. We're going to try again in 2025. They still have a lot of hope for Roman Wilson, but right now it's, let's get Mike Williams caught up to speed. You're going to keep Ben Skoranek there. There just might not be room.
Let's go to Unlimited Moonballs, who says, how sweet would a Russ revenge game be in the playoffs?
Oh, it'd be incredible. It would be incredible. It would be awesome if Sean Payton came to Pittsburgh and Russell Wilson got to put on a show. If we're going to look at the NFL. Can I tell a crazy story?
Please do.
Story. Okay. when I was a kid, I went to a Jets game with my uncle, and we knew somebody that worked for the Jets. He was the Jets team doctor at the time, and he came over to us we had great seats right in the front by the tunnel, and like right on the field by the tunnel. And he came over to us as he was going into halftime. I'm not going to screw up the story by giving a wrong score, but the score was like low. It was like, 6-0 or something at halftime. Like it was something boring. And he goes into the locker room, says what's up to us as he goes in, comes out, says, again, I don't remember. I was a kid. I was like 9 years old. And he says a score to us as he's walking by. He's like 27-21. And we're both looking at each other like, what? Final score of that game was 27-21 or whatever it was. I just remember the whole car ride home being like, holy shit, man, what just happened? And I don't think the NFL is rigged, okay? I do not think the NFL. I think if you told TJ Watt to lose a football game, he might murder you. I do know that the storylines, they seem to add up a little bit too well sometimes. And missing Denver was, man, dude, Russ missed the game. It all comes back if that revenge game is in Pittsburgh in the playoffs against Sean Payton, where you could say, hey, pal, ha, 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 I'm going around 2. You're going home. On the other side of that, you lose. Russ has to retire. Yeah, Russ has to retire right there. Those are the rules. You either win or you retire.
That puts a limit on the moon balls if that happens.
Yeah. There are no more. There's no more nothing. You can't come back from that.
We got 2 more. Let's start with Lifted Ones, who says, did you see the Hard Knocks trailer that was released earlier today?
Yes, I did. And the first question I asked to the person sitting next to me in the media room was, so you think that you think they're gonna just like slowly eliminate the Browns after like a week or 2? Like you think they're just gonna push them to the side and say, what are we covering? Like hey, we're gonna start Dorian Thompson-Robinson this week because that seems like a really smart thing to do because we suck. It's like, yeah, all right, that was cool. That was a really good episode of Hard Knocks. Have a lot of fun. Yeah, no, I saw it. It looks good. I'm excited. I've seen the NFL Films guys have been around, so I've got to see them pretty much all over the place. I am excited for it. I think it's gonna be a good time. It airs at like 10 p.m. though, right?
I don't think 10 p.m. I think it's usually like 8 p.m.
8 p.m. I could do. I was a little.
9,
I've never watched it when it aired. I've always watched it like the next day or something. 9 is still a little late. 8 I could do. 8 I could do. I'm an old guy, man. I'd be in bed by 10 o'clock.
Let's finish it off with Panda Games, who says, so I've got a question. With the possibility of a Victory Friday, will the pod be earlier, like on a Monday?
Great question here, Panda Games. Appreciate you. We're going to give an update here at the end. Anyways, Friday will be earlier. Friday we will do 9 o'clock because I will be traveling back from Cleveland. So I don't think my hotel will allow me to hang out until 4. Just might not work that way. So we're going to do the pod at 9 on Friday before I hit the road to come back to Pittsburgh. Thursday, because because I am traveling to Cleveland and the game is at night, we will not be able to go live on Thursday. I know, massive bummer. I am very sorry. We hate it too, but we will do a pre-recorded pod. We will release it Thursday morning. So you guys have all day to check it out. We'll just go through our typical Thursday schedule of everything that's going on. If you guys have questions that you would like us to answer, toss them in the chat throughout the week and just say something along the lines of answer this on Thursday's pod, something like that. So we'll try to make it as normal as possible, but Friday will be a 9 a.m. pod. Thursday will be pre-recorded and we will toss it up on all social media platform or all podcast platforms, and YouTube bright and early in the morning for all of you guys to check out.
That's a wrap for today then.
Awesome. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk Overreaction Tuesday. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. We will be back tomorrow enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.